Oh, hello again, YouTube. I finally came to the end of me investing in Forbidden Rite Totems. I certainly didn't get it to the full min-max where it could be, but we thought we'd provide an update on how everything went and where I invested into and where you should invest into if you make more money. So we'll just run this in the background while we have a little bit of a talk about things. So I was doing proper juiced tier 16 scarabs, sextants, everything except delirium. I had done a 80% delirious map on this character and it was manageable, but a little slower than I would have wanted it to have been. I think that in my current state, 100% would not have been smooth at all. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed that at all. It could be gotten to that stage, but honestly, it's not really meant to be a mapper anyway. It's meant to be a boss killer. I did use it to map, and I used it to farm my headhunter to make a bossing character, which I just finished about a day ago. So I'm leveling a character for that now, but big changes that we made that you can see represented in this video is we went into the dual cluster setup, and I wish I had done that much earlier because I'm now at 110% projectile speed. Technically, I did not take the best damage nodes out of my clusters to get projectile speed. I also didn't take the best damage helm enchant. I got a Forbidden Rite projectile speed helm enchant. But scaling the projectile speed the way I did moved me from having 15 to 20 deaths a day to more like 1. I was stuck at 92 for a while, and I played it for one more day and got to 94 after that. Scaling projectile speed turns out incredibly useful. It is just that things that the totems target get hit almost immediately, and there's just not enough time for anything, even in juiced maps, for anything to attack me at all. We've even rolled this Guardian to, I think it's 90 plus quant that I go for Guardians, and then I don't really look at the mods on it, just I have no idea. It's probably relatively easy, but 90 plus quant plus, you know, sextants and scarabs and whatever else you put in the map. And this is in the map clear setup. Its DPS is pretty damn good now. So that's a tier 16 Alked Guardian. So it has been an incredibly nice build. We also have like the last stage of Cirrus, which I forgot to change into my single target setup for. So this is the map clear setup. So we're missing maybe 15-20% of our DPS, which isn't really a big deal, but its DPS is pretty damn decent. If it wasn't for that forced phase, that would have died a lot quicker. DPS, pretty damn decent. Most importantly, the playstyle is very safe. I never have to get hit, right? That is a Woke 9 Cirrus, the end of that. I will actually link this highlight clip for the entire Cirrus kill if you want to follow it. So, how did we make these changes? How did we get so much projectile speed? What else did we invest into? So I've already sold the character, so unfortunately I can't show you, but we did save it in Path of Building beforehand. Now, Path of Building says we have just shy of 30 million single target DPS with all of our additional projectiles. I do have to say, I think something is a little bit up with that. I think every single Forbidden Rite totem build I have seen has the DPS about 30% higher than it actually is. Just from the feel of playing it, it feels more like 22, 23, not 30. And I really can't confirm that in any way other than it just feels that way. But I've looked at other Path of Buildings as well, and everything seems pretty much the same. They all seem 20 to 30% higher than they actually do in game. I'm not really sure what's up with that. I actually can't explain it, but they all feel like that. So for comparison to other builds, without any shenanigans going on, my Path of Building says 29. It's definitely very comfortable. So what we did was we dropped this block wheel and went into this second projectile wheel. Now, this whole setup actually costs so little that since doing it, I've been suggesting people upgrade to dual clusters before they even buy a 6 link. So if you're still on a 5 link Forbidden Rite Totem in a Soul Mantle, and you don't have a Viridi's helmet yet, and, you know, you're still on Kikazarus and everything like that, this is still the next upgrade you should do. So we know we already had this cluster that's nice and expensive, and we know we needed Taunt, and that made us feel really good. And I opted for 1 projectile speed notable, and it was like noticeable. So what I did next is I made myself a new amulet with 20% projectile speed on it. I bought a 1x large cluster jewel that's exactly the same as my other one, and I bought 2 15C mediums. They might be more like 40C now, which are just repeater and streamlined. So we got more projectile speed there, more projectile speed here, more projectile speed on our amulet, and then I actually sold my Viridi's Veil and bought another one with the projectile speed enchant, and that cost me about 1x for the difference between the two. So it was only, the helm enchant itself only cost me about 1x. So we did that, and then suddenly everything is a lot smoother. All the mapping feels so much better. Obviously, we've upgraded into cowards. The amulet we built is disgusting. We've got just fantastic gear, fantastic jewels now. I will link the whole path of building in the description. But I think this was the most massive change. In fact, this change gave me so much power that I'm not even convinced that I need to be over here taking Pain Attunement at all. I think if I was on a tighter budget, I would have been very, very happy to just drop Coward's Legacy and just put like a Stygian Vice on or something, because is a very expensive part of the build. And I want to be clear, it is the very best belt you can get, but the build is so powerful and it does so much damage that we can actually lose that whole Pain Attunement thing and still do really, really good damage. And that saves us all these points as well. So we would come all the way back to here, which is a bunch of points. That's the build finished by 87. That's the block wheel if you want it, or more mana, filling out life nodes if you wanted to put one small chaos resistance thing in to block that. There's so many options to go for if you don't have to go out to Pain Attunement. So like if you have a very large budget, absolutely still go Pain Attunement. It's disgustingly good for damage, but it should be the very last upgrade anyone does, is getting that belt and going low life, because it is too expensive. There's nothing to replace it, but just if you spent that 15x on all of your other upgrades, that would be much more efficient use of your money to begin with. That belt should come pretty much last. But other than that, not too much else changed. Just all my gear got better and all my tree got better. We're still running the same boots with an enchant. There is absolutely no use in having a ward pair of gloves. If I was to min-max this further, Diamond Flask should be replaced with a Bottled Faith. That actually gives me enough crit that I don't even need the crit roll on my wand to be crit capped, because I'm actually just ever so slightly over crit capped right now as it is. So if I upgraded to a Bottled Faith, I wouldn't even have needed that crit roll on the wand, and I could have got maybe a better wand, more raw damage on it, because I wouldn't need the crit. So we would have done that, and we would have tried to replace our gloves with like a Cull pair of gloves, or an Unnerve Cull pair of gloves would be the min-maxing to do from here. You could craft Unnerve and Cull gloves, and that would be on its own something like 17% more damage effectively. In fact, I would rather encourage people to try and craft those kind of gloves and not go for the belt, and then you lose the 30% damage here, but you'd gain 17% more ish from just having Unnerve Cull gloves, and you'd have Cull and you'd have those extra points, and it would cost you less than the belt. So again, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking that that belt is like not a trap, because it is still the best in slot belt, but more like it's been prioritized too high in people's list because of its outrageous price. It needs to be the last upgrade you make, because it's still incredibly powerful. It's just that its cost is so high. You can invest in so many different areas of the build all at once for the same price as that belt, that it's just not. It just should be down the bottom on the list of upgrades. This is the belt we're talking about, is Coward's Legacy, that gives us the low life and Curse with Vulnerability. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. But definitely at the end of your upgrade list. Definitely, if I was building it again, I would have done all those other upgrades first. Everything else, I would have changed out my Diamond Flask for the Bottled Faith. I would have got a better weapon. I would have even gone as far as getting 21 gems and 21 supports and things like that before going after the belt. But yeah, this has been a fantastic build. Super easy bosses, super easy feared encounters. We just annihilated feared encounters. Super easy mavens, all bosses. It's capable of mapping at an acceptable speed, which is the most you can hope for out of a like dedicated bossing build. Like, it still gets the job done, which is quite nice. Anyone still struggling, especially if you're struggling with dying, please see if you can invest in a little bit of projectile speed. It is by far the absolute best thing that I have put on this build the entire time I was playing it. Going from having a total 20% proj speed to having 110, night and day. It's like a whole new build. It's like I said earlier, my deaths went from maybe 20 deaths a day to maybe 1, maybe 2 at most, doing like full juice tier 16 content, daily missions and scarabs and everything. So just, even though I technically dropped a little bit of defense, just that projectile speed saved me. Yeah, so this was incredibly fun. But now we have used this build to farm up our headhunter, and we're going to be on a new character from now on. What I will really quickly touch on, just for those who are interested, how did you farm a headhunter on this build? I went for the old tried and true method of an auspicious watchstone in here for harbingers, 15% chance to do an additional harbinger, and I had the blight and harbinger nodes. I could have also gone for the metamorph and harbinger nodes, and that would have also been fine. Whichever one you prefer is fine. We made a very good amount of money here. I was buying a little over 1 doctor a day, just casually farming there with just polished scarabs. I used polished blight, polished harbinger, polished metamorph, and polished or rusted elder. That was my setup, and I just ran maps all day, and we bought a little over 1 doctor a day, running that build until we owned a headhunter, which I now have. This will be my next character, obviously, who only just got to maps and has no gear and no gems and no anything, but it is wearing my brand new headhunter, and that's all that really matters. So that'll be our next build. This has been incredibly fun. I expect this to get at the very least halved in power. So if you haven't had a chance to play Forbidden Rite Totems, absolutely do it. It's tons of fun. Don't worry about people calling you a meta cuck. Things are meta for a reason. It's because they're powerful and fun. Yeah, that is all. I will see everybody later. All links in the descriptions, so check those out. I'll see everybody later.